Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm doing the BDS versus Golden Guardians best of 5 series. So if you enjoy the content, like, subscribe, and let's get into it. To begin with, these were some kind of interesting drafts. I'm not a huge fan of the direction Golden Guardians took. They obviously got 3-0'd by BDS, and I wanted to cover the drafts, what I liked about them, what I disliked about them, and let's get into it. So to begin with, I want to cover bans. So BDS in all 3 games actually banned Rell, Jarvan, and Rumble. Rell, of course, being a really valuable support jungle flex pick, good tanky champion with good engage, works quite well in the jungle role as you can enable like an AD top laner, AP mid laner, and then you can run something like an Alistar, Thresh, alongside a good marksman. Of course, Rumble, really powerful top laner, has really good all-in, has really good just damage and control using the ultimate. Alongside that, Jarvan being really strong with the Gordon Shojin is probably a champ which is going to pop up in bans a lot. I don't know if this champion is going to maintain its ban presence throughout the tournament, but in this series it was banned all 3 games. On the blue side, of course, is Golden Guardians. They took blue side in game 1 and game 2. They then swapped up and went red side game 3. For the blue side bans, they went for Olaf, Xayah, and Poppy. Poppy being a really good jungle top flex. Olaf being a signature pick of Adams, and Xayah being really powerful with the Rakan. So, B1, they picked Taliyah. I think Taliyah is a fine B1 pick. She can work both jungle and mid. She's pretty strong into most matchups. She mainly has weaknesses into long range mage poke, which Orianna kind of falls into that bracket. So I'm surprised they left Orianna open when they went with the B1 Taliyah. Of course, Renekton and Orianna were the response picks to the Taliyah. Renekton being a good pick for Adam, quite an aggressive top laner. The response to this was K'Sante. Pretty standard Licorice pick right here. He was playing a lot of K'Sante over regular season, playoffs, and he played it at MSI a decent amount, I believe. Gory, of course, picking Yone. This is where this pick I really dislike, because then you give up the Taliyah flex pick potential, so you now force it into the jungle, and Yone as a pick into Orianna struggles, so this just looked bad. It struggles in lane. I argue that both Jace and Tristana are better AD picks at the moment than Yone. And then, of course, out comes the Maokai. This just makes the Yone really good, really struggle in this game. He is thematically countered by all 3 champions here. The 2-point-and-click forms of CC, the long-range harass of Orianna. Going into the next ban phase, we had Kalista and Nautilus banned off by red side. Lee Sin, Ezreal banned off by blue side. Ezreal, of course, quite strong within this draft. It helps him not get picked out by Taliyah and Yone. And of course, if they're going the direction of an engaged support alongside something like the Kai'Sa, then you do definitely want to get rid of the Ezreal. Lee Sin, I'm guessing, was more of an avoidance of Maokai support flex, maybe. And then Lee Sin in the mid lane. Kalista and Nautilus. Kalista being the strongest lane bully perceived lane bully in the game at the moment on this patch. Nautilus, also really valuable pick, really strong ultimate alongside just really good engage. They then pick up the Kai'Sa and the Amumu on blue side. Rakan coming out on R4 here. So this makes sense as an answer to it. You lock down the Rakan, make sure it can't really find the angles to engage. Kai'Sa, still a short-range marksman, kind of going to struggle into this comp. We do then see this within the game. Amumu, you do kind of want your comp to be ahead if you're picking this champion, which when they were behind, it didn't look that useful, but it was still able to find some picks onto the Sivir. I think Sivir is one of the best options in this situation, a good farming, scaling pick for Crownie. He was running the Absolute, the Gathering, making sure he could really power into the late game. I don't think it's great into the Amumu, because if Amumu hits you with Q, he's still going to be taken towards you, even if you do spell shield it. It does just mean you're not going to get CC'd. Yeah, but for the most part, the Amumu was just flash ulting and then following up with Qs to really get picks on the Sivir. Overall, this game was over really early. The Yone wasn't able to do a huge amount. I'm pretty sure this game lasted a solid 20 minutes. They rifted through top side and just ended the game. It was bad. Overall, this draft from Golden Guardians ended up being a bit of a mess. It wasn't something which I was a huge fan of. In the next games, I was hoping that like they would adapt, they would pick some more meta staples, not go for anything too flashy, and just try and get a bit more control on the meta. So moving on to game 2, they picked blue side again. With the bans of Renekton, obviously trying to ban out sort of Adam's pool, Xayah and Orianna. Orianna, of course, showing that she's really strong at the moment. No presence going into Worlds, but definitely looking like one of the highest presence coming out of Worlds. Still no Tristana at this point, which was kind of surprising. Definitely still think Tristana's a really good champion. They once again B1 Taliyah, obviously a huge fan of the Taliyah B1. This team was banning it and then was picking it and then banned it when they were red side, followed up by the Maokai and Ezreal. I'm not a huge fan of just giving Maokai back over towards Shio when he looked so strong on the pick in the first game. Ezreal coming out, safe ADC, really strong damage at the moment. Kalista, obviously, lane bully. I'm not a huge fan of Kalista into Ezreal. Ezreal with the slows when he picks up Shireldas can be quite annoying for Kalista, plus he just outranges for Kalista. After this, they pick for K'Sante, so they're holding both flex on K'Sante and Taliyah. Garen then comes out. Obviously, the Garen is a response pick into the K'Sante, as you can really easily kill the K'Sante if he ults, because you can press R when K'Sante drops below a certain health threshold. Going into the next ban phase, Nautilus and Jax. I'm surprised about the Jax ban. I'm pretty sure they're doing this mainly to try and avoid K'Sante flex into the mid lane, so Gory doesn't pick him up. But then Jax is countered by Garen anyway, so you'd have 2 lanes countered by the top laner. I'm not a huge fan of this ban, but I can kind of see where they were going a bit. Nautilus once again banned out, trying to avoid this point and click engage and the hook. Syndra, really strong mage in the mid lane at the moment. Obviously, the mage has not been picked. They're just trying to pinch some of Nuclear's champion pool. Alistar, also a really strong pick at the moment, banned out, so Labrov doesn't get to play this champion. Moving on to the next pick phase, you got Rakan coming out again. Labrov was allowed Rakan in all 3 games. Surprisingly, this champ is really strong. We didn't really see any like response picks coming out to it. No Lissandra wasn't picked or banned during this entire phase. But yeah, as a response to Rakan, we had Neeko and Bel'Veth picked up. I'm not a huge fan of Bel'Veth in competitive. I think she's definitely a solo queue champion, but if you're really proficient of a champion, then she can function. Of course, Neeko and Bel'Veth means that the Neeko is going into the support role, the Bel'Veth's going into the jungle, Taliyah mid lane, K'Sante top lane. So you have the K'Sante Garen matchup, it's losing for K'Sante. Azir is then picked into Taliyah. I'm not a huge fan of this matchup. I believe it's favored towards Taliyah, as you can basically stop shuffle, which can be really crucial during team fights. But when you have this kind of a draft, this short range, Azir ends up being really strong just as like a standalone, just hitting like your champions alongside Ezreal. It proved unplayable in the later game team fights. Once these champions had items and they were behind a Azir wall, they were able to just force a Baron, and then Azir just sat there just hitting them the entire game. Garen, of course, was able to just distract. He made some really interesting plays during this game. Of course, we had the flash Q on Kalista, the trade there in the bot lane. Alongside that, he was able to stall out Golden Guardian so they can contest Baron. Also really huge there. But it's nice. I didn't put Garen as something I thought we would see. I didn't believe that he would pick it a huge amount of worlds, and I didn't even know if BDS were going to win this game. But Golden Guardians came in, looked really shaky, and I mean, BDS just proved to be really stable within the current meta. So yeah, Bel'Veth and then Azir R5, Azir being really valuable, kind of thematically just counts as this draft. But Neeko wasn't hugely useful. It got picked mid lane by the Azir when it was transformed as a minion. Thank God, you can count. So yeah, I mean, that game lasted like 34 minutes. Pretty sure Golden Guardians had the advantage early game, but then it mostly came from Shio kind of being put a bit behind and Adam kind of being caught a bit topside. Yeah, the Bel'Veth looked kind of useless, and even though the Maokai spent like 3 minutes dancing around Raptors, it still provided to be useful. So moving on to game 3, they picked red side this time. When a team goes double blue into red side, it's kind of it's not the look you want, because it shows that you're not confident in the playstyle that you came into the tournament with. Of course, they banned, once again, blue side, BDS banned out the same three champions. Red side, they banned out the Taliyah, obviously scared of the Taliyah B1, Maokai, so Shu doesn't get it for a third game in a row, and Renekton, so Adam can't have this pick. B1 Rakan came out, Xayah to obviously take it, R1 Xayah to take it away from Rakan. Jax is picked up as like, as just, Licorice was playing really well in the first two games, and they wanted to take away, they wanted to pick a champion which Licorice could carry on. Of course, I'm not a huge fan of just Jax R2 here. Ezreal Orianna came out, once again, these two champs look really staple within BDS's draft. Orianna looking like a really strong mid pick, Ezreal looking like a really strong ADC pick. Azir comes out. This matchup is fine. Both sides can play it. The Orianna obviously slightly stronger early game, as it has been hurt a lot in his early game strengths. Moving into second ban phase, they ban away Darius. You don't want Darius into the Jax. They ban away Lee Sin, trying to avoid Shio on this pick. Obviously perceive it as being quite strong. Nautilus and Vi get banned out, avoiding River playing Vi, and then once again banning out the Nautilus so they don't have this single target pick potential. Moving into the second phase of picks, Leona comes out. I hate Leona. I'm not a fan of this pick. When you have things like Alistar, I mean, you probably wouldn't play Alistar within the context of this game, but Leona as a champion here just isn't great. I would rather something else comes out. I'd have to think about it. What you have, I mean, Lissandra could be an option here. You have the point, like if you want point and click CC, you run something like a Lissandra, mitigates the Rakan engage. You can run it into Ezreal. If you press R on the Ezreal, obviously you can get bursted down by this comp. Could be an option there. Into blue side picks, you have Sejuani, Garen picked up. Once again, Garen really strong into the Jax. It's one of Jax's worst matchups. I'm not a huge fan of Sejuani, has been hit by a lot of nerfs, but within the context of this draft, you have 3 priority lanes, and you can just use it to kind of walk around the map, look for picks, secure objectives, and that's kind of what it did. Ivern is the pick here. I mean, I like Ivern as a champion. Didn't feel great within this draft. Overall, it just wasn't thematically that good either. Golden Guardians looked really lost on the meta. Once again, who he picks with like the Leona, the Amumu, the Nico seem just a bit off. When you're giving Labrov Rakan 3 games in a row, it feels like you're not familiar with what the meta is, and you're picking to like picking more to answer than rather than like what meta is. Which I found interesting. But overall, Golden Guardians, yeah, just looked really shaky. BDS looked like a far more comfortable team. We got to see the Garen in action, which was really exciting. Definitely looks like a pick which can compete with the meta at Worlds. Definitely wins into a lot of what's strong at the moment. Of course, if Garen sees play, then maybe we see some Camille into Garen, as Camille does tend to win that matchup quite comfortably. But overall, kind of disappointing Golden Guardians showing. BDS looked like by far the stronger team. The drafts from BDS's side looked really good. So the main surprising factors were there was no Jace, there was no Tristana. These picks were kind of absent, of course, with Orianna, Syndra, Taliyah, Azir being really strong AP mid lane pickups at the moment. There is a high chance that we don't see these champs until later on in the tournament. If we do see some like AP carry junglers like your Karthus, your Gwens, maybe you pick up some like tanks and you kind of just want the AD mid if you're running like an AP top side. There are options there, but yeah. That's kind of the idea. Also, no Kennen. That was also kind of absent from these games. But yeah. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.